Starting to the right side of the map, Antigua Shipyard. In the red, we have the Slayer's Terran player. This is
Slayer's MMA.
Slayer's MMA. Surrounded by controversy, but still holding strong, taking out Violet in game 1.
To the left, we have his opponent. We have the Zerg player called
Violet.
You mentioned this earlier. There will be an announcement soon about some possible personal sponsorship for Violet. That's really exciting for Violet fans out there. This guy is quite popular in Warcraft 3 as well. And we'll see what he's got planned for this tough map, Antigua Shipyard. He's sending a drone out pretty early to scout what MMA is up to. This has become really the standard because so many people are going Command Center first these days that it's important to know whether or not he's doing that. I mean, there was for a time almost everyone One-Rax expands or Hellion expands, then Hellion expand fell out. People just made a reactor Hellion after the expand, but now Command Center first being so popular, that's really important to check. And I like that.
And of course Violet is going for a hatch first here. No reason not to. But he wants to know if he can pull off a second hatch before pull, which is not the case here as MMA starts with the barracks. The Antigua win ratios for both players, and you can already see that Violet has not been all too successful on this map. Only 1 win and 4 losses.
Yeah, not a fun map for Berserk against Terran especially. And he is going to drop his pool down. Now, the win rate from winning the first set for MMA is 17-5. That's a pretty high record. He got his 17th win like that just yesterday, winning 2-0. Or not yesterday, but in his former round 2 of Code A, round of 36.
The drone gets at least a glimpse of the command center. MMA is building it at the low ground immediately, not on the high ground, and gas is taken for Violet a lot faster than the last time. There are certain timings on this map that you can also hit with roaches, or a pure roach attack. You can also go for a roach baneling, something that he might consider to do. A lot of Terran players will start a bit greedy on this map, and MMA going straight for the double refinery. He wants to get this factory as fast as possible.
Yeah, this is pretty textbook play here, and he will get the reactor. He's going to go for the starport. Everything is just going to go according to the way that this matchup is played in Korea right now, and actually pretty much all over the world at this point as well. It's no longer just a stylistic choice that Koreans make. 2 queens on the way for Violet, and with the gas that he has, he's going to be able to get Zergling speed pretty quick, and we'll find out if he continues mining that, whether or not he wants to put on some aggression.
He doesn't. He pulls them out immediately, no additional mining going on.
Yeah, and you know, it's something I would not have put it past him to do on this map, would be to put that aggression on, since this is a tough map for Zerg, but now getting an additional queen, and like you said, he's pulled out completely from that gas.
It's not that popular anymore on Antigua Shipyard, because you start always cross position, and therefore the distances are quite huge, especially when the Terran player gets an idea of what you're doing with the Marine or an SCV. He can easily defend, but it's still out there. The Marine's now sneaking in against the Queen, not able to do too much damage though, at least if she gets a bit support, which is not the case right now.
Yeah, he's forcing drones off the line a little bit here. Only 2 Lings in production. As soon as that extra Queen pops out, he knows he has enough. I like the patience of Violet here, not overreacting at all, just pulling away for a second. And MMA gets out without losing anything either, so I love this type of early pressure. Ooh, he's re-gassed. And he's taking another gas.
He's taking the second one, exactly. So let's see how he's going to play this. The harvester count is at 33 now. Usually when you go for a roach baneling attack, you start at 33 to 38. He's building a few Lings, but we don't have a roach war, and he's taking the 3rd base. Let's see what he's going to go do with this gas. He's starting with this tech here. He could still try to apply a bit of pressure, but I doubt that he'll do it.
Well, I think he's definitely not going to do it when he sees the factory having a tech lab already, and he's already starting siege tank production super early. And this is actually what I want to see more often out of Terrans. MMA is skipping reactor Hellions entirely, cutting it out of his build, saying, you know what? That's just not something I care about to do on this map. I love that because it's just so ineffective these days. Sometimes we see Terrans find Zerg's Queen on the Watchtower, for example, then just completely run around it and get in and kill those drones, but it's kind of rare. It's really weird if that happens, and MMA is not even going to leave things to chance here.
Yeah, even though Hellions sometimes are able to sneak into the mineral lines and do a lot of damage, it's still a bit of a gamble that you take. Also because you want to be safe against these pushes that a Zerg player can use, the ones that we mentioned earlier. And with a siege tank on the high ground, this is exactly what you are. You are super safe. And as long as the first few medivacs are out, you can always use a Bioforce to force back the creep. At this point, there won't be any anti-air for the Zerg, so just sending Marines out with one medivac is all that you need in order to kill a few creep tumors. You do not necessarily have to rely on Hellions. It's still a valid strategy, but this is just another attempt of achieving the same goal.
Yeah. Oh. Not quite able to get that Overlord. He's got a Viking, though. He can send that home later. He's going to get this one. And this is a little bit frustrating for a Zerg. He's making a Spore Crawler now, but that's, of course, for the potential Banshee follow-up with this. And also, it'll help him for drops later on. I like the position for MMA right now because he's saying, basically with this, I'm going to hit an earlier siege tank push, and if I don't want to fight you, I can just go home. I know already, based on how the last game went, that in the late game, I think I can outplay you, and I don't actually need to put pressure on early with my Hellions. I'm going to use these tanks instead.
But this is going to be a big problem for him because he's going to elevate it here. He's trying to make it work so that Violet has to defend the main base and the siege tanks at the low ground. But with all these... nice, he drops on the small plateau. This is going to be really annoying.
Yeah, this is something that people, when this map first came out, said, well, this is going to be too strong, and hardly anyone has used it. But this is what it's like to be a Slayer's Terran, man. This is what we talked about last game we might do. He's even making a bunker here. He is hunkering down and getting ready. The Zerglings can't engage. He's going to need more than that.
He wants to be annoying in the main base. The Zerglings on the low ground won't do anything. That's why he's trying to hit an attack timing now. He's moving in, and if he morphs a few Banelings, he might be able to do a lot of damage here.
And even if he doesn't, there's not that many units in that bunker here, and there's only one siege tank. He's got a lot of add-ons making, so not a lot of production here for MMA. He's going to find himself in a little bit of trouble.
The siege tank on the high ground is having a great day here though, but too many SCVs dying on the low ground, and at the same time MMA is now moving forward with those Marines, but a lot of them dying here. MMA did not pay too much attention. Suddenly the Lynx are in the space.
Yeah, MMA failing with his multitasking here a little bit, losing his force in the main of Violet, and now all he's got is those two siege tanks, and he's losing everything in his main base. More and more SCVs starting to fall. MMA falling apart here a little bit.
MMA is so down in economy at this point. He only has 16, 15 harvesters left, 12. That's all he has, 9. This game is essentially over.
Yeah, it's essentially over, man. He may even catch the siege tank. He will. Targets it down. The SCV cannot repair. He tries, but it's not enough.
A huge mistake by MMA in not lifting those supply depots. He tried to escape with his SCVs, and I certainly get the idea, but the problem is as long as your wall is safe, you can do damage with the siege tank and you can build additional units, but he just lost everything.
Yeah, he made 2 additional barracks. He only had the 1 barracks before the attack occurred. He has brought his siege tanks home to the rescue, but there's too few. And with the rest of these Lings coming in here, he can't lower his raise his depot. They're already lower. There's Lings on top of it, and this game is over. Violet will tie up the series.
The idea of MMA was nice, but then he screwed up a little bit.
He put all of his eggs in one basket with that drop. He only had 2 Marines and a bunker and 1 siege tank at home. And the other 2 barracks that he made, he was making tech labs on them, so he couldn't produce any more Marines to put in that bunker. Then he didn't raise the depots, and everything just got out of control.
The depots was the bigger problem here. Even if he loses all the SCVs on the low ground and lifts his command center, he still has the mules that he can rely on. He's certainly in not the best position, but he can come back. The siege tank will make sure that those Zerglings will never be able to get into the main base.
Yeah.
But if you don't raise the depots, then they just run in and take the siege tank down. That was the point when he lost the game.
And once that happened, he really started focusing on his main base. And at that point, that's when Violet attacked his units that were in his main, and he wasn't focusing on those either. Yeah. So he basically just lost everything and totally fell apart.
The Baneling just killed them.
Yeah. Well.
And I think that one of the MMA's siege tanks blocked the depots here, but well, as you said, he was a little bit too stressed. He was trying to focus on his main base. He was trying to focus at the attack that he started. So in the end, there were just 2 things that he couldn't handle at the same time. Yeah. Bad timings, and therefore Violet claiming victory on game 2 and forcing MMA onto the 3rd map.
And the 3rd map is going to be Daybreak. This is a very balanced map, one of the most... I think the most excellent maps we've ever had in the GSL map pool. We'll find out what the strategy of these players are going to be. Violet so far looking strong. He may be able to take out the Slayer's Terran. This is the GSL Code A cast by Caldor and Wolf.